We got Gators Breakdown here. We know we're business.
Gators Breakdown, because there's never a dull moment in Gator Nation.
The Gators Breakdown podcast is ready to go. I'm your host, David Waters. You can find me on social media at GatorDave_SEC. Back at it with Andrew Franklin. You might know him as Sponge, or you might not know him as Sponge, but you know him as Sponge now. So yeah. Back here on Gators Breakdown, we're going to talk offensive line, defensive line. We're going to get into some trench warfare. Hey, they talk about it, going against each other. We'll hear from Caleb Banks, Jamari Lyons, just speaking to the media for the first time since he got injured last year. I mean, Sponge, I'm going to go ahead and tell you, one of the best interviews I have heard. Like, Jamari Lyons, man, he was engaging on the microphone. We'll hear some of it because I'm only limited to certain amounts. Following the media rules from Florida, there we'll hear about 3 minutes from him. But I do advise everybody to go out there and watch the full interview with Jamari Lyons because it was good. And then on the offensive side, we get Jake Slaughter and Damieon George. And then after that, we will get into some. Sponge and I have been talking about this for like the last couple of weeks. So we were like, it's a good podcast topic. We're going to get on it. And we're going to talk about the schedule, the key games, most important games. Can Florida sneak into the playoff at 9-3? All kinds of schedule talk as well. So pretty loaded episode, Sponge.
Yeah, for sure. Like I say, good start to, a couple more weeks to go. So let's talk some O-line, D-line, because that's where what everybody says. The games are won and lost. You got a guy who can protect DJ. You got guys who can create those running lanes for our backs. And then obviously, what's the flip side? You got to have guys who can pressure the quarterback and get after the quarterback and stop the run. So, you got to have offensive, defensive line. That's the key starting point to any good football team. So that's where we feel pretty strong and pretty solid with our group. There's going to be definitely some guys again, I'm excited about Jamari Lyons because we were excited about him last year. And, it was just devastating to get hurt, basically at the first camp scrimmage last year to where you're out for the whole year. And, you got to wait a whole 365 just to chomp at the bit to get back on the field, man. So
he gets into that.
I know. And I know he's excited. I'm excited. So like I say, let's get it rolling, baby.
All right. Everybody, before we do get it rolling, hit that like button right here on YouTube. Those likes really help us out. Subscribe right here on YouTube. If you're watching the replay or if you're watching us live, if you're catching the podcast version, subscribe to your favorite podcast platform as well. Find the Gators Breakdown. Get that alert. If you subscribe, it's right there in your player. And then leave some comments right here, some live comments. Or if you're watching the replay, do that as well. Certainly enjoy going back and forth with those as much as I can. If you want to go back and forth, the best place to do it right there on the Gators Breakdown Plus Discord. Link is in the description. We got a Florida USF 2-ticket giveaway going on right now for Gators Breakdown Plus members. So if you want a chance to go to the USF game, become a Gators Breakdown Plus member, the giveaway will be right there on Discord. So that'll be next Tuesday. So there you go. There's another nice perk of being a Gators Breakdown Plus member. And there's ad-free episodes on the podcast version as well. So, all right, Sponge, let's get to it. Going back to last season, it was a rough start in the trenches for both sides of the ball. Offensive line dominated by both Miami and Texas A&M, and in those same games, the defensive line couldn't generate any pressure, couldn't make plays behind the line of scrimmage. And then game by game, you started to see both groups get better and better as the season went on. Like you talked about it. It's what both of those sides of the ball have to do. Well, you know what? When the offensive line started playing better and the defensive line started playing better, give all the credit in the world to DJ Lagway. But those wins really don't come along either if those in the trenches don't step up. There were times, the Florida's run game was tough to deal with because of Florida's growth in the season along the offensive line. Pass blocking did get better, but also aided by DJ Lagway's escapability. I think that's fair to say. Then the defensive line and the edge group started finding their way as Caleb Banks and Tyreek Sapp just started dominating and helping everyone around them. So last year, what started out as a liability ended up being strong units for Florida, and now so much of that experience returned. You got 4 or 5 offensive linemen returned. Banks, Sapps, George Gums all returning on defense. As you said, it likely in a lot of ways, especially in the SEC, it starts in the trenches, and Florida's got a whole bunch of experience coming back.
Yeah, that's why we're feeling good. We know what that offensive line looked like in the beginning. It took its lumps, wasn't doing what they needed to do, obviously early in those games against Miami and A&M for sure. But then they kept gradually, figuring some stuff out, getting some things, obviously it helped that DJ, finally got his spot. And when Graham went down in that Tennessee game, and they kind of just kept developing. And then that run game became a force, obviously late in the year against like an LSU, against an Ole Miss, against Florida State, that run game became an integral part. And what's big time this year and why everybody's, again, optimism for the Gators is all those guys are returning. So a ton of that talent is back, and we saw the progression from early in the year to late in the year. So now everybody's back. So now we're expecting this O-line to be good. And the same thing for, like you said, that defense line. Yeah, we lost a few guys in the portal, but we feel good about the strength of those main core pieces that we have to get after the quarterback on our end and, hopefully shut down run games, because the SEC is a grind them out league. So I'm feeling pretty good about our O-line and D-line. Definitely, we're going to have to find some depth on the D-line because since we, lost some of those guys, but we've talked about some of these guys who've been showing up already early in camp. And like I say, that O-line is definitely a thing we're going to lean on for sure.
For sure. So what can make them better? Hey, how about going against each other in camp? That's got to be strong. It is a good offensive line. It is a good defensive line. Here's Caleb Banks and Jake Slaughter about the competition against each other.
Physicality in fall camp, how would you describe it so far in the battle?
It's every day. Physicality is every day. We bring it every day. They bring the duos. We break the double teams. It's kind of like a competition every day with the O-line and D-line. I can speak for. I don't really, watch the back seven. I'd be too focused upon the people in front of me. But we bring it every day. We talk trash every day. We love each other at the end of the day. So it's been real physical. It's been one-on-ones.
Coming back on both sides too, and the ability to you got all-American center that you're facing and stuff and everything like that. How does that push you guys and get you guys better?
We kind of, for me, honestly, like we know after practice we go to each other like, okay, we got that block. What is the way we could defeat it? Like yesterday we were talking about that, and I know that can help us go out the next practice and be dominant because they know that we're going to try to defeat that block, but they're going to try to stop us from defeating that block. So, we just love competing. That's what they are.
Yeah, we go to team run, inside run. It feels like you're going to war sometimes, and it's great. That's where you get better. Iron sharpens iron. That's been our message, and guys go and compete. And Banks talked about it too. Like, oh, you got me on this block. How am I going to beat that? And having that back and forth is where you see growth. Or you're playing this technique. What are you seeing? What are your thoughts here? So it's been good for all of us. The healthy competition, and it's been good.
So Sponge, you hear that, and of course, no surprise. First couple of weeks we're hearing, hey, defensive line ahead of the offensive line. Defense ahead of the offense. Well, a big part of that is defensive line being ahead of the offensive line. And some of that comes with the territory, when there's no pads. Defensive line, I think, definitely has an advantage in that situation. And then you gradually get the shell zone and the pad zone, and it probably takes about another week for, I think, the offensive line to catch up. And then shout out to Nick De La Torre, because I don't want to steal all this thunder there, what they're doing at Florida Victorious, but what you can find there inside practice notes. And hey, he's been saying it's been heated. The guys get after it. It's a respectful competition. Yeah, it's hot out there. It's 95 degrees. It's 100 degrees. There's going to be some frustrations. There's going to be some back and forth physically, mentally, out of each other's mouths. But at the end of the day, they know they're, as you can hear them talk about, going to make each other better. All the experience coming back. These guys have practiced against each other for 2 years now. They know the expectation. I think that's the best part of it. They know the expectation now going against each other. They know what it takes to win in football games. So they know, well, that defensive line was putting it together last year. That's a good group. If we can handle our own against this defensive line, we're going to be pretty good, and vice versa. Good to hear those two guys and their back and forth there.
Yeah, totally. And again, this is like player speak, coach speak. I was going to say it, but even before the soundbite, and he, Slaughter said it, iron sharpen iron. That's like a old school, you're good versus my good. I might get you on this one, you're going to get me. And then you go back and forth and say, what was your technique on that? How did you, what do I need to do to break that block? What do I need to do to get a better pass rush? All those things, when you can have that healthy, big time competition, and then you could have the back and forth after to strategize on, hey, this is what I was doing, this is what you were doing, back and forth. That just makes you a better player, because that way, you're going up against one of the best centers in college football, not even in the SEC, but across the country. And then you're going up against one of the best top D linemen across the country. So basically, when you really say iron sharpens iron, it's the truth, because they're both giving it to each other, and they're both, battling back and forth. And like, that's just what makes you a better team. Competition breeds, a better team. Go back to Urban. That was one of his main things he always focused on. We're going to compete at everything, just not necessarily in practice, but when you have that competition and you want to win at anything you're doing, that just makes you a great competitor. It makes you a winner. It makes you want to win at everything. And so that itself is just a huge component to where that this team should be getting better, because they're going up against really good players, and they're competing at the highest level right now.
Yeah, that's a good point about kind of the whole keeping score of everything. Because look, that's kind of been the mantra since that. Will and I just talked about it last episode of the whole practice mantra and the approach mantra. Yeah, it kind of stinks that it took that long to figure it out. But hey, if you want more competition, if we got to keep score on every little thing in practice, if that's going to make you better, that's what we're going to do. Glad they figured it out. Glad they can move forward and hopefully, continue that competition in practice that makes these guys much better. We'll kind of follow along that storyline as we hear throughout these guys too. But let's start on the defensive side first, Sponge. Let's hear from Caleb Banks.
What were your goals throughout the offseason, personally, just to take the next step in your game after the way you exploded, especially in the second half?
Oh, yeah. Just get better in the run game. I know that was one of the things that I had to really work on. So in the offseason, I was mainly just watching film, watching what I did last year, to see what I can get better at. So
coming back and you have the level of height that you have personally, is that do you feel pressure for that, or do you is it excitement to go and prove that this is who I am, this is who I want to be? Yeah,
it's pretty cool, to see all the accolades and all that type of stuff. But at the end of the day, I got to go out there and play football. I don't really think too much on it. If I do, I feel like it kind of bothers me a little bit. I kind of start thinking too much. So I see it, repost. Okay, keep going.
You've seen a lot of NFL scouts in practice. Are you aware of that? Do you block that out, or how do you?
It's kind of hard to miss them. You working out, you doing a drill, you turn around, they're like watching. So it's kind of hard to miss them. But I don't really let it get to me too much. I know I got a job I got to go out there and do. So regardless if I'm there or not, regardless if they're there or not, I'm still going to do what I have to do.
Ron Roberts' defense, what makes it effective? What do you like about it? What do you think works about it? You guys obviously found something as the season went on.
Yeah. He believes in his players. Ron Roberts, he let us go out there and, play football. He believes in his D-line. He knows that we can go out there and do what we have to do, get the job done. I just like how he schemes out the defense and helps us go out there and make plays, and the linebackers as well. So
what gives you confidence? You've been here a few years.
Yeah.
What's different now that gives you the confidence that this team is ready to contend for a playoff spot and challenge in the league?
The guys that everybody around, teammates, they wanted more. I can see it in their eyes, they wanted more. They believe. That was another thing we just talked. We had a meeting with Shep, and the main message was believe. You have to believe, and I see it in a lot of guys' eyes every single day. They go out there, no matter what we're doing, running to the conditioning test, anything. They believe. They know we can do it. I just think we have a very strong group of guys that's ready to go out there and compete. No matter what the circumstances are, no matter what the score is, no matter who we play, no matter what the schedule is, we really don't care about that anyways. But I think we got a great group of guys that's going to go out there and get the job done.
Why do you believe?
Why do I believe?
Why do you guys believe more?
It's just who we surround ourselves around. Coach Napier preaches every day, you gotta believe. That's just what it is. At the end of the day, if you don't believe, then you're not going to get the job done. So honestly, you just got to believe in your coach. I believe in Coach Napier. Yeah, he put the position he puts us in. So
there we go, Caleb Banks. I'm talking about belief, and hey, look, that winning streak last year really had to go a long way. I don't think my camera's working, is it?
Yeah, froze up there, buddy.
Yeah, you can hear me. So that's good for now. But the belief's got to go a long way. There had to be proof in that November that hey, this thing is going the right way, and it's got to carry over. Now it's a new season. Does it automatically mean it will carry over? And now all this is lip service and stuff. They're saying the right things, about hey, the belief is there, and we got to put in the work, and the iron sharpens iron. Going back to that part of it again, but certainly going back and him being a big part of it now. That he can share that belief, and they can all share it together.
Yeah. No, like I say, this is talking season, so you're going to get sound bites from players. They're going to tell you what you want to hear. They're going to give you all the good stuff. And again, what you got to really buy into is that they're doing the work. That Caleb Banks has his head to the ground. He's ready to rock and roll. Like that's a big part of it is, you got to feel it out and say, sure, these guys, like I always said, when I was, coaching and I knew my players had to talk to the media, a lot of times these guys really don't even want to talk to the media. It's like an obligation thing. They're going to tell you what you want to hear. They're going to give you the coach speak. They're going to give you all that stuff. They're not going to give you the good bites. But then again, you might hear some good stuff. So like hearing that, hey, okay, sure, I got all these accolades, posted on Twitter, move on. Great. Hopefully he's thinking that. In that practice, you're seeing NFL scouts, it's hard to miss. He knows what he's got to do. He knows that he's got to build up to his expectations and he's got to be that guy. He's heavily accounted for that he's basically going to be the anchor of that defensive line, the anchor of the defense. So he knows like basically what's on his shoulders. And again, it goes back to I forget who that was who asked him, but why do you believe, I think it was Brockaway, but why do you believe? It's like, it's almost like that's a dumb question because we believe in each other. It's like that we believe in each other. I'm around these guys 365, 24/7. I believe in the next guy. I believe in the guy next to me. I believe in Coach Napier. Going back to, I asked you the other day about the whole Netflix thing.
Yeah.
Watching
what? Some of that's where that stemmed from, by the way. So
okay, yeah. So I watched it, last week or whatever, and again, it goes to show you like this is a tough business, man, and we know it. We talk about it like everybody talks about it. You lose, you're on the chopping block. You suck, get out of here. Everybody's fired. And that's just the nature of the business. If you ain't doing your job on the D line, you're out. If you're getting burned that corner, you're out. If you're throwing picks, you're out. So like just to be able to keep that team intact I give credit to Billy, because like that thing was going sideways fast when you rewatch and visit some of that stuff, how that season started last year, it sucked. It did. And we talked about it then too. So to go where they were and to get to where they were at the end of the year, again, that's why we're building up all this big time optimism for this year, because you kind of can see the transformation of what this team is and who they're capable of being. So now it's just a matter of going out and believing in yourself and doing your job and making plays and doing what you got to do. So I'm again, all we can do is, we said it before, wait and see what happens, and then criticize after the fact. But like, I'm feeling good about what we're hearing and what we're seeing. So, I love the fact that Caleb Banks is basically, anchoring that defense.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he mentioned that he was asked about that Netflix special and being in that locker room, being in that scenario, and Coach Napier shows us who he is, and I basically appreciate it. It makes me want to go play for him the way he shows that emotion. He doesn't hide his emotion. Now, we may not see it. The press conference situation may not see it, but I have heard even rival fans have told me, "Hey, I respect Billy Napier a lot more after I watched that Netflix documentary." And we got to kind of see the person he is. And look, we've all said it too. Yeah, as you said, Sponge, it is a cutthroat business. If he ain't winning, he needs to go.
Yeah.
On the other side of it, I love the guy to death. Billy Napier is a great person. I hope he works out. I hope he's here for a very long time. First of all, because I want it for him. I want it for me. And it is just... he would be the right guy to be around for so long. I've stood by this. If he can get this thing rolling, I believe it will roll for a long time. He's got that mentality, and he's just got to now capitalize on that. Like what the player's saying, that capitalize on all the belief that was built at the end of last season and keep it going. And I sure hope he does. One more thing about Caleb Banks too. Credit to him. Well, credit for the players for not, for still buying in and all that. But the buy-in for him too throughout his career. I mean, the development. He's got to repeat it again. But what he showed in November was, wow moments. I mean, that was some big boy play. I don't know if we saw that coming. Certainly, he had that. He was a 3-star out of high school, a 4-star as a transfer. So he had that pretty good start at Louisville. Transferred to Florida, got a 4-star as a transfer. So some people saw some potential in him. But even at his best, I don't think I saw that best. I don't think I saw first round talk that we're seeing now in mock drafts. So credit to Caleb Banks too, Coach Chapman, Coach Spencer even before that too. But Coach Chapman, I would tell you, he's a big reason Caleb Banks wanted to come back.
Yeah.
And Tyreek Sapp wanted to come back. I mean, it's, you bring him in, they're big fans of him. They could have easily went to the NFL, but now you got first round, mock drafts talking about how well Caleb Banks is as a draft prospect. So to see his journey and the ups and downs, and now coming back for hopefully a big season, credit to him as well.
Yeah, no, it's totally that we said it, multiple times. Two of the biggest victories was getting Banks and Stapp to stay in school, not transfer, not go to the pros, do whatever, and that was a big win just for us to have that, those guys back, because, there's no better, thing than to be able to retain your studs. And, even if those guys are, NFL draft worthy, ready to go. So getting those guys back on that, again, we talk about how important that defensive line is huge. So these guys are going to be rushing the passer, and obviously he just said early in the soundbite, he's working on some stuff to, help him, when he was, getting beat on the run, or what he needs to do to be a better run stopper. And so again, going up against Slaughter, like we said in that first bite, those guys are just going up against each other, banging out and basically getting better and better, each practice. So all you can do is hope and lean on, like you say, the belief and the hope that it's instilled in that locker room. And like I said, I think that's what's kind of got us going. We're believing the hype too. So again, it's just all a matter of getting out there and showing us, basically.
For sure. So let's keep it going around with the defensive line. And look, I had to squeeze this one in. I was working all the way up until we went live here. We knew we were talking trenches, and I didn't know Jamari Lyons was going to speak today. So I was like, oh, okay, well, I got to get this in. I'm a big Jamari Lyons fan. Let me see if I can squeeze his sound in as well. So, man, let's start with him looking forward to this season, and then taking us through that journey, Sponge. I mean, everybody, we're going to hear it if you haven't heard it yet. He goes through the details of that gruesome injury he suffered about a year ago.
I'm looking forward to this coming season. Is since they capitalized, we pretty much trying to capitalize off of last season, and it's being able to go out there and train every day and work every day. It's kind of just bringing me happiness and joy to being able to work. I took 6 months to sit around all season, so being able to work and push forward, it just made me more happy and stuff.
Can you take us through that recovery process? Tyler Miles described your injury as one that might make a guy stop and think about football for a little bit. But you were out there, come March, you were ready to go.
Yeah, my injury was terrible. My ankle completely popped out the bone. Bone was hanging out my own skin. Being able to come back from that, it took a long time to even start walking, and a little bit more time to start even running after that. But obviously, I just been able to push through, keep going, and now I'm out there running around, striking blocks, getting off the block, making plays, making tackles during camp and practice.
And what was the toughest moment? We always kind of ask that of guys who've been injured, but what was the hardest thing about it? I'm sure it was hard sleeping, the pain was something, but what was the mental aspect of it too?
With me, it was just when I had surgery the same day, so I came back the next day, was rolling in a wheelchair. It just hurt to see my boys just go practice without me. I had to sit back or get wheeled around practice, so that really just hurt me. I'm a type of guy, I always love to practice to attack that day. So it would just hurt my heart just being pretty much sat down or forced to sit down, and it kind of messed me up in my head a little bit. But coming in the facility every other day, just being around my guys, they just kept me going, kept my head moving forward and stuff. So now it's I just take this opportunity to give back to them and do what I got to do for them to be the next level to succeed.
Are you 100%?
Right now, yes, I am 100%.
You are 100%?
Yes, sir.
What happened? What happened?
With the
Did you get caught? Did your cleat get caught? Did you trip?
So what happened was that I was in, it was the last play of the rack, and I remember going to start the guard. The running was kind of so I was trying to play the secondary gap, and as I was making the tackle, the pile was rolled over me, and my ankle got caught, and it just popped right out of right on the field.
When they told you that you were 100%, and when exactly did they tell you that you were 100%?
It was spring. I was in a black jersey. I go out there to my locker. It was the next day, so I go to my locker, right? We getting ready to suit up. I see a blue jersey. I just looked at the blue jersey, started tearing up a little bit. I was like, wow, man, I'm really back 100%. It just felt good just to be out there running around, striking, just having fun being a big old kid. So just it's just all great and stuff.
What's the mental aspect?
No, go ahead.
What's the mental aspect of, trying to put the injury behind you, even when you're 100%, just not thinking about it when you go out there?
I really don't think about it at all right now. My ankle is 100%, so I just try to keep it pushing, so I don't worry about it. If it ache, it ache. Just keep pushing. Go ahead, strike blocks. Go ahead, do what you got to do, Jamari. That's probably what I tell myself.
You still feel it a little bit sometimes, or
it happens days.
There we go. I'm a bigger Jamari Lyons fan now.
Yeah,
I can tell you that. I mean, like I said, his interview, like I said, I can only use about 3 minutes of it. It was a good, I think, close to 15 minutes, and he is just that jovial and smile on his face and all that, talking to the media. You can genuinely tell he is happy to be back. He is happy to be playing football. Going back to the spring, limited a little bit, gets that blue jersey. He got tears rolling down his eyes. And this guy's put in a lot of hard work. And we know how hard it can be and how hard it needs to be to go out there and be a good team. Sponge, they call him the junkyard dog since his freshman season. That's what he said else in the interview. Said he felt proud to get that nickname because he was on scout team going against the first team offense and proving himself. Also went on to say that the injury was a wake-up call to take better care of himself. He's a type 2 diabetic, so knew it was time for that. Coming in as a freshman, he created some bad habits that he needed to get out of. Put more emphasis on schoolwork in the film room as well. So, big fan of Jamari Lyons. And hey, let's not forget now. I mean, Cam Jackson, was on this team a year ago. He was in that spot Jamari Lyons hopes to take over right now and play as good or even better. But you go back to a year ago. And, we know fall camp intel can be bad. We all know it. I put that tweet out today about, hey, a year ago we were hearing about Asa Turner and DJ Douglas, and all of a sudden, it was Triquest Bridges who was the better player as the season. So we take everything you hear for a grain of salt. But some of it's gonna be true. Some of it's not gonna be true. But I go back to a year ago, and he got hurt, and like I took it hard a little bit because the intel that was coming out is, hey, we got 2 starters there. We got an A and we got a B. We feel comfortable with Cam Jackson. We feel comfortable with Jamari Lyons. And then not long after that, he goes down with the injury. So, probably maybe contributes to how bad that defensive line played earlier in the year as they were trying to shuffle pieces and trying to figure out, who could help, back up or play with Cam Jackson. But certainly an even bigger fan of Jamari Lyons after today.
Yeah, no, like I say, that whole thing goes to your depth, to whereas like if you have a 1A and a 1B, 2 guys are going to contribute. They're expected to contribute in one spot to where you're doing spot duty. So you basically have 2 guys in one spot to basically when one guy's out and the other guy's in, there's no drop off, and that's potentially what we were going to have. And it was. I remember when that injury came out, it was like, dang, it was just like And even going back to what you're saying, like that type of injury is one of those, that's just bad luck. It's not even, it doesn't have to do with, that taking care of your body, not working out hard. It's just freak. Injuries are freaks sometimes. And, to be that, like, and those type of injuries, I've seen a few where when bones pop out through skin is like, it's one of the worst looking, one of the worst feeling, it's just not, you just don't want to be around it. And it's just bad. To know, the grind that he had to go through to wait, to finally get that blue jersey, to finally be back out there, like you said, striking and thumping and like, giving us that junkyard dog mentality, on that D-line, which is, we always say back when we were at Trinity, you got to have some of the, you got to have the D-line's got to be nasty and almost dumb. They bang heads all day, not calling any of my men dumb, but like you got to be a little crazy to basically be busting the head every single play. Like I know we talk about, guys hitting, but those D linemen, man, you got to have that dog mentality to be banging in there. So if he's a junkyard dog, hey, give me that all day long. Cause we talk about mentality of players and, your personnel. So give me that nastiness on that D line. Cause that's what we want. And I know he's excited. I'm excited for him to be back 100% healthy and hopefully he'll be full go and ready to go and be injury free. And it's great that he's getting his body right, getting his academics right, getting his whole head right. It sounds like he's in a good space and he's just ready to play some football.
Yep, got glimpses of him a couple years ago. But there were some plays here or there that really stood out, and one of those players that got better throughout, and that we were certainly really counting on last year. And unfortunately, had the injury. Certainly looking for a big year for him. Another, kind of like him now. He goes back and look at it. He was asked about Joseph Mbachu, the true freshman along the defensive line, who's been getting some reviews from some other players out there. They asked Lyons about him. He goes, Joseph Mbachu, he doesn't really realize how strong he is yet because he's still a puppy. That's what he said. The true freshman, of course, has been making noise along the defensive line, but I like the way he put that. He just doesn't realize how strong he is.
Still a pup.
Yeah. So I like that. So good stuff along the defensive line there, and certainly Caleb Banks and all his experience, and Jamari Lyons coming back from injury. 2 cogs there that will go a long way for this defensive line to keep that play up from last year. So. Let's go to the other side. And, of course, we'll start with the All-American, Jake Slaughter. I mean, accolades everywhere for Jake Slaughter right now. He talks about that and more right here.
Has it kind of been a whirlwind for you these last couple months? I don't know how much you pay attention to it, but you get All-American last year, you get like 2 preseason All-Americans. Now you were just put on the Remington Trophy watch list. I know you've been here for years. I know that you've got a lot of experience, but for all of that, all of these honors to be come together this quickly, what's the experience been like?
Yeah, it's one of those things that you got to recognize that it is a tremendous honor. It is, but it really doesn't mean anything until you go do it. Preseason honors are great, but it's at the same time, you got to go put it on tape. You got to go win games. You got to go play your best ball. But it is a tremendous honor, though.
You were thrown to the fire with that Utah game.
Yeah.
And it was a rough day for the whole team. But what did you learn from that experience? And I mean, you've obviously grown tremendously from that. But did that? What kind of reality check was that for you? What did it how did it direct you forward from there?
Yeah, I mean, Coach Napier, it was maybe 6 months ago, but I remember him and I were, we were just not hanging out, but past each other in the hall, and he was laughing. He goes, Slaughter, I remember I looked at your face for the Utah game, and I love you, buddy, but I knew you were in for a long day. And it was one of those things. It was a real learning experience, and it is a reality check. You check yourself in the way that you prepare. You check yourself in the way that you shift your mindset going into a game week, going into a practice, going into a walkthrough, because you realize, it's your intent. Intent is everything, and what you do to get ready for a game.
You guys have a lot of players that have been in the fire. That you're second in the SEC in return snaps on the offensive line. Coach Napier said you got more depth than when he's been here up there. What's the ceiling for that group, and how does that affect kind of the urgency in which you prepare, just knowing your experience, but you have other goals you want to accomplish?
It's one of those things that the rising tide brings up all the ships. So our sense of urgency is to play. We want to go and every day play our best ball so we can help the team. I don't know if we're really focused on a ceiling or a floor of who we are or what we can do, but our big thing is we want to go play our best ball. We want to make sure that the team's in a good spot because of us.
How would you compare the depth to this offensive line compared to years past?
Yeah, it's hard to say. It feels like apples and oranges just because it's different guys, but I feel like we're in a really good spot with our depth. Our young guys are really coming along. I think Rod Kearney's doing a great job. Jason Sandomela's done a great job. There's so many young guys that are really progressing, and it's a day-to-day process, and having guys that stay process-oriented has been important to us.
Is the Sandomelas trying to play some center? Are you kind of giving them some tips, or what's that been like?
Oh, no doubt. I try to pour into him every chance I get. He's awesome. He asks great questions, and he wants to get better. And I'd be doing everybody, including myself, a disservice if I wasn't willing to pour into him. So, no doubt.
Damien, he was kind of a favorite punching bag in his first year here, but he really last year seemed like he did his job, and fans didn't pay that much attention. What did you see from him to kind of just turn it around, or was there much, or what was some of that overblown?
Yeah, Big Dame's my guy, man. He does such a great job. Big thing about him is he's a massive man. He's a big man. He's strong. He's powerful. You'll watch him do something and people fly away from him when he puts hands on him. He's a big, strong human. He's powerful. And, it's one of those things that I think he's best suited to play guard. And he communicates well. He sees the field well. We've talked about before, he's played a lot of snaps, and it's a joy to play next to him. And truthfully, one of my best buddies.
There we go. Jake Slaughter talking about Damien George there to end with. But, I mean, he's up for every offensive line award out there, Sponge. I mean, this is coming off, of course, the 2024 All-American season. SEC Media Days not long ago, and you got first team preseason All-Conference there. On the watch list for the Lombardi Award, the Outland Trophy, the Remington Trophy. So now remember now, originally a Dan Mullen recruit, so he has seen it all in his time here. Mostly down times until last season, so plenty of chances to transfer away, or even last season to go to the NFL, and he's back for another season. I don't know how high the ceiling is because he's already close to it, but going to a point you made earlier, and kind of going back to the original theme is these guys going against each other. Him, Banks, practice after practice. So I asked myself, what is the ceiling? But maybe when you're going against, as you said, one of the number one interior defensive linemen in the country, maybe there is another step. Maybe there is something for Jake Slaughter, because he got better as the year went on last year as well. And then now you get another offseason to go against, I think, a better Caleb Banks than what Caleb Banks was a year ago. So, yeah, maybe there is another step. Maybe there is a higher ceiling for Jake Slaughter, which is a scary thing, by the way. I hope we see it. But, I mean, I think he might be pretty close to it. But, maybe you could speak on this, too. One aspect that is kind of overlooked here, of course, he's along the offensive line as a leader.
Mm-hmm.
But he's paired with DJ Lagway. So you have one of the most potential great quarterbacks in the country, and in front of him, the best center in college football. What does that do for a quarterback-center relationship? What does that do for a young quarterback like DJ Lagway?
Yeah, that definitely, that gives him trust, and you know that the guy who's basically anchoring, the center is that anchor spot. He's basically your quarterback for the offensive line in a sense. Sometimes he's helping guys get calls, to the guard, to the tackle. Communication is key. Communication is key in everything in life. So to have that relationship that I'm sure he has with DJ, being able to feel comfortable, it's all about comfortability, so all those things are great intangibles to where if you got one of the best centers in the country, to basically to know that he's in front of you, he's going to give you good snaps, obviously, but he's also going to get those. He's also, because we've seen some snaps now where snaps were just when snaps are a problem and you can't get the ball back to your quarterback. I mean, that's football 101, man. So to have, to know, 100% snap rate, all that stuff. And then having that, communication with the rest of the O-line, getting everybody in check, DJ's got to feel good, and then, one thing I love about Jake is he's kind of just that blue collar. I don't care that I'm getting all these accolades and awards, whatever. He's it doesn't matter to me. I just need to go out and do my job, put whatever's on tape, and the rest will speak for itself. And that when you have that type of mentality, that's that good workmanship. You want that on that offensive line. That's like a flip side of the junkyard dog on D-line. I got this workman type mentality of I'm just going to do my job and make sure the rest of my guys are doing their job. And everybody's coming along. We got depth. We're building good depth pieces with the young guys. That's what you want to hear. And again, that's why we feel good that this offensive line has got so much experience coming back. And, when it's all said and done, the main focus point is one of the best in the country in Jake Slaughter.
Yeah. And here's the thing about that. One of the most experienced offensive lines this year, well, since they're so experienced this year, they probably won't be next year.
Right.
So now you're handing the keys. What better situation does Jason Zandamello walk into from transfer from USC? Never played it down there because he was still a true freshman.
Right.
But I'm going to transfer to Florida, and you know what? I'm going to sit behind the best center in college football for 2 years.
Yeah.
So while he may not be experienced next year, you do get to learn from Jake Slaughter for 2 years.
He's getting plenty of experience, by not playing in game experience, but yeah, that's huge, because
he was the number one interior offensive lineman coming out of that class.
No, I remember when we got him to transfer, I was like, this is huge, this is big time, and you might be expecting this kid to come in and play and contribute on the O-line. Well, guess what? He's doing, it's like one of those things of, NFL quarterbacks, when you get a guy who can sit behind a guy and learn the offense and kind of grow, get your experience in practice, and kind of understand the game. Sure, you're not getting those live game reps, but that's the next best thing. So you got a guy, basically, he's just laying in wait. So when it's my turn, I'm going to come right in, and you're not even going to miss Jake Slaughter. You know, that's what you hope for. That's how you build potentially out a championship level football team, when you got guys who can say, okay, X goes down, this guy comes in, no drop off. This guy goes out, you know, and that's hard to do in this day and age of college football, because usually those backups who aren't getting playing time are usually like, I'm out of here. I'm going to go somewhere else and play right now. So the key is building that depth to say, all right, hey, wait in line. Your turn is coming. And then when you get your shot, you're going to be ready to go. So like those are all, you know, integral parts of making a good, you know, formula of having a great football team. And that's super hard to do right now. So anytime these young guys can just learn from this experienced O-line and know when it is their turn, they're going to be ready to go.
Slaughter gave up 1 sack and 9 pressures over 402 reps in protection last year.
That's crazy. that's nuts.
That's why he was an All-American, by the way.
That's crazy.
All right, let's go to his right side, and right beside him is one big Damieon George. Made the switch from tackle to guard last year and certainly accelerated his career. Let's hear from the big man.
So gratifying was it for you to have the season that you did last year, and especially, you know, sliding over to the guard there and having as much production as you did?
It felt good to just show that the hard work I did in the offseason and everything, and just being with my guys and just guys helping me get to that point, just working hard every day, pushing me.
What are some of the improvements you want to implement to take your game to the next level this year?
Being a better leader, like to the young guys, because this is my last year, so like I'm the oldest on the O-line, and I just want to be in a role where I can just like pass on things I learned while playing on to the young guys.
Xavier said that you guys had 4 guards capable of playing. What have you seen from just that group specifically, and then, you know, the depth behind you and Harris?
Yeah, our guards are really good. Just every day we go in with a mindset that we want to be the best O-line in the country, so we have to work like it. Like, it's better said than done.
How much, as a leader, older player on the team, like how much confidence do you guys as leaders take from the way last year finished? And has that helped as you kind of move with the new team this year?
Yeah, last year definitely helped. Last year definitely helped us this year with our mindset, just going in, knowing that like we finished off on a good note and everybody just bought in at a certain time last year. Just like one game, everybody felt it. Everybody felt the need that we need to turn everything around, and just having that momentum going in after the season, we want to just pick up where we left off basically and just improve and not take a step back.
Why do you feel like you excelled so well last year at guard?
Can you repeat that one more time?
Why do you feel like you excelled so well last year at guard?
Just like knowing me, knowing what I could do on the field, and knowing that like I'm the type of guy that just like to be in the phone booth and block guys like that.
You're doing a lot of pulling and taking guys out on some touchdown runs. Like, did you enjoy that aspect of it? Just the different.
Yes, I always enjoy just hitting people for real. Like I just want to be able to just dominate people, just show them that I could be dominant at this level.
What's it like to have high expectations coming into a season?
I feel like it's a good thing for our team because everybody should hold themselves to a higher standard and just setting a standard for the Florida Gators, period, and just knowing that everybody should be able to play to their best ability, because at the end of the day, going out there on the field, we're going to need everybody's best.
Yeah, DJ said he felt this should be a playoff team. Billy says that's the expectation. Is that discussed at all, or is that just kind of like known that that's where this team expects to be?
I mean, I feel like everybody. I mean, you don't play this game just to not make the playoffs every year. So, just everybody just want to reach their goals and hold up the big trophy at the end.
That's definitely what we want, Sponge, and Damieon George can go a long way that playing that right guard spot. Wonder the jump for him, now that move has been made. Now another offseason, another year going into now, having a year in experience with that. You expect probably a jump there with all the experience he brings back. But we talked, kind of going back to the original point. Austin Barber's played in this offense for 4 years. Najee Harris for 3 years. Jake Slaughter, for 3 years. Damieon George is, now second year going into the guard spot. For him, there is a lot there. And these guys came back. So many guys came back, and you could kind of hear it in his voice there for the chance. There was a lot of excitement off of last year. DJ Lagway is the quarterback of the future. Okay, we get to play with him again. We get to see if we could continue November. We get to see if all the good that happened. I want to be a part of it. I want to repeat that. They could have went somewhere. They could have went to the NFL. Those guys, so many of those guys could have went to the NFL. Now, how high they would have been drafting them? Okay, that probably plays some part in deciding to come back. But also deciding to come back is, hey, we got a chance to do something special. And you've heard all these guys say, hey, I couldn't look the young guys in the eyes and not kind of fulfill everything that we've sold them on last year. We want to come back and be a part of something special. And look, that's how you build a special team.
Yeah, no, for sure. And that's why, again, we've said it before, we feel good. Like when you have that, continuity that's been there, playing all these reps, game experience, all that is huge. And so, and it just builds again, you don't have to talk about goals. Everybody knows your goals. And like you said, everybody wants to win, Back in high school, it was like, we're going to state championship or bust, Now, granted, we were way more fortunate than a lot of teams, and we kind of had that expectation to go there. But, you play this game, you go to Florida, you go to Ohio State, you go to, Miami, you go to Florida State, you go to Georgia you expect that you're going to get a bunch of dudes on that team, and they're going to come together and you're going to go win a title. And like that's why you play. That's why you come to these places. You expect to basically be in that SEC championship game. You expect to make the playoff now. You expect to make a run. And if you don't, then you're not playing the right game. You're not if what are we playing for then? If you don't have those expectations, that's go to Vanderbilt then and get a good education, because, but we expect to be where we're supposed to be, like you say, set the standard of what the University of Florida football is. And, we're trying to get back to that. And like we said before, there's nothing more than, I would love for a guy to Billy Napier to be that guy to be at the helm for this. He's got the belief of this team, buying in. So again, when you hear Damen George, I think he's a mauler, man. Big, huge dude. I think about when he was throwing those punches against Tennessee a couple years ago. Maybe not the smartest to punch a helmet like we always say, but he's a guy. He's nasty, and you want to have. Like I said, you got Jake Slaughter, Mr. Hard Hat Workers mentality. Then you got a mauler next to him. You got Austin, who's a mauler. This O line has great potential, and that's potential. I have to use the word potential. They've got expectations because we saw what they can and are capable of doing, and now I'm expecting that November run to start off right off the bat, and hit the floor running, in a couple weeks, and then you just throw on everything else with all the gifts and gadgets of DJ. But I'm expecting this O-line to be a force at the point of attack. I'm expecting the running backs to be, a force in the ground game. And that's going to basically be the key anchor point to the offense. We're going to be able to run the ball. We're going to be able to punch people in the mouth. And then on top of that, when you go to kind of load that box up, that's when we can hit you over the top with our speedy guys downfield, DJ, doing what he does. That's why we have so much expectations for this offense. We think it can be really, really good because guess what? You can what a lot of people got to be able to do is run the football. So that's where we feel good that we can lean on that, and then everything else will fall into place.
6'6", 365.
He's huge, man.
Huge man.
Big dude.
If you watch him play, he can pull at that size pretty good. And you heard, I think it was Zach Alberverdi asked him about kind of the mean streak that he plays with. You can see it. I mean, he is a mean player out there in that field. And you know what? There is a certain mentality of guard and tackle. Maybe just like he said, playing in a phone booth. But it's a little bit better for him. He can just get that big size and run behind him. Running backs run behind him a good bit, though. Kev, KJ1995 says, I'm just ready for the first screenplay on 3rd and 10. Man, So, hey, you see those offensive linemen down blocking on that too.
Hey, that's a scary sight for a corner, dude. I'm telling you, dude. I never played corner, but when I watch some of those corners, and even going back to talking to Keywan when he was playing corner, and he see that screenplay, like, oh Lord, these boys coming, they're coming at you. So you got to either cut them or get out of the way.
For sure. Keith Niebuhr of Gators Online pointed out that in 410 snaps as a starter at guard, he boosted a pass blocking grade from 56.7 at tackle to 73.4 at guard, about almost up 20 points there, according to Pro Football Focus.
That's a big jump.
Yep, over 10 starts, George didn't allow a single sack and delivered 4 games with a pass blocking grade of 80 plus, including a career best of 89.4 against Georgia. So it was certainly a better move for him moving there on the inside. So all right, there we go. Hearing from the trench players right there, offensive line, defensive line, good stuff there from those players. Let's get to the next topic here, and we'll end the episode of Gators Breakdown. But kind of the topic of Florida's path to the college football playoff. A little bit of schedule talk here, and key games, most important games, biggest game. I think you can define that. Biggest game to me is not necessarily most important, and I'll say why. The most important game. There's your rivals and things like that. Biggest game, I think you can kind of put a different definition on this year. We will certainly do so. And, if 9-3 is good for the playoff. But Sponge, let's put it up here. First of all, let's go. I didn't do it the other night because I kind of ran out of time. But the preseason AP poll. We'll use that as our first barometer, then I'll pull up the schedule. But
yeah,
I mean, there we go. We all know about it. There's 7 teams in the preseason AP top 25 college football poll that Florida has to play. I got them highlighted right there for you. Number 1, Texas. Number 5, Georgia. Number 9, LSU. Number 10, Miami. Number 19, Texas A&M. Number 21, Ole Miss. Number 24, Tennessee. That is Florida's opponents in the preseason AP top 25. So yeah, I mean, it certainly can scream different values here for most important game, biggest game. They are different for me, Sponge. I will go first here, but most important game, everybody's going to know it already. It's personal for me. It always is. But the most important game is, that number 5, Georgia Bulldogs. Not just because it's Georgia. That's where it starts, don't get me wrong. But it's not just because of that. It's time, Sponge. It's the gap is smaller than it has been in quite some time. You played them tough last year, even without DJ Lagway. It almost was a coulda, shoulda, woulda if DJ Lagway was playing that game. It's just time. There's been haven't beat them since 2020. Haven't beat them since the COVID year. We were all in masks at the time last time Florida beat Georgia. That's how long it's been.
Yeah.
After just beating their brains in for about 20 years, you couldn't. Now you can't get out of your own way. Hey, look, they're still probably overall the best program. Whether they're the best team this year, probably not. I don't know. I wouldn't put that on them right now. They could be by the time the season's in, but they are probably still the best program in college football. Well, you know what? You're closing the gap somewhat this year. Do they probably have a better overall roster? In some ways, probably yes. A better experienced roster, I think, goes to Florida. That's why you got to take advantage. So for me, the most important game, because it is in the SEC, because it is one of your biggest rivals, if not definitely your biggest in-conference rival, it's just time to beat Georgia.
Yeah, I totally agree. But I mean, I'll go different than you just because you picked Georgia. But we'll talk about Georgia just because, like you said it, like they are the team to beat. They have been. The epitome, the top of college football, the last 5 to 10 years, going back to, we haven't beat them since, Kyle Trask kept throwing wheel routes to, backs and tight ends. And, that was our best roster that we've had to date since then.
Yeah.
And, and Georgia has been Georgia. They've won national titles. They've been really, really good. Kirby's recruiting at a high level. He's got studs coming in. He replaces guys that leave. You know, they are definitely one of the standards when it comes to college football. And yes, that being your number one rival every year. Yeah, I remember as a kid, you know, as a teenager and a kid going to like, you know, Florida Georgia games, and like we never lost to them. You know,
it was afterthought.
Yeah, I went to a couple of those. I went to the 97 loss where, you know, it was just like, what is this? And then, I went to the game when they came to the Swamp and we stomped them. I mean, we didn't only we beat the brakes off of Georgia for years. And like Spurrier like toyed with Georgia, and it's just like that feels so long ago. But you know, for a stretch there, it was going back and forth for a little bit. They would get us a couple years, we'd get them a couple years.
Yeah.
But obviously, they've kind of dominated the series and college football the last several. But yeah, that's definitely a huge game. I'll go Texas for mine, just because again, they're the number. Allegedly, they'd be number one in the country coming to the Swamp. You know, that I just think that's going to be a huge game. And you know,
I got that as my biggest game.
Yeah. Okay, there you go.
That's how I labeled that one.
Okay, totally. Then I totally would agree with that one. And I just feel like that atmosphere is going to be great.
Yep.
It's again, Texas is relatively new to the SEC. Obviously, we'd love to welcome them into Gainesville with a big loss. Arch Manning, the hype behind that game is going to be off the charts. So, like, I want to beat Texas this year, just because everybody, I guess Texas fans and Texas in general, they feel like they hold themselves to like they're the higher than the oiny, like I'm better than you, and like it gets to be, I guess, like, let me bring you back down to earth, man. Y'all ain't done nothing in 20 years either. So, Vince Young has been a long time away, so that, again, Texas, they're the new big boy on the block and all that. So I'll go Texas as the team I want to beat. And obviously Georgia definitely want to beat the Dogs, but those are early, like that Texas game's early in the year. And obviously we know, looking at the schedule, the other two teams in the top 10 are obviously going to be tough road games for us, going to Baton Rouge and then going to play Miami as well. So like the schedule's loaded. We know that. And, we just got to take care of each, like, as you alluded to at the very beginning, I wanted to use coach speak. What's the biggest game? The next one.
I can't go that far along that way, okay.
The next one.
Yeah. But, that's why I say I think Texas is the biggest game. And it is hard for me to say Georgia's not the biggest game because it is the SEC game and it's the game I think you got to win. That's why I will. Maybe I'm splitting hairs, and maybe some people don't think there's a difference between most important and biggest. I do think there is this year because Texas is at home. This is a game none of us have seen. This is a game, Florida and Texas. We go to Austin last year. Okay, we haven't seen them in the Swamp. Nobody in our lifetime has seen them come play in the Swamp. So first you get that, and like you said, they play Ohio State week 1. They get by that. It is a cakewalk till they play Florida. It is, I forget it, but it is a cakewalk. I think it's 3 out of conference patsies, if I'm not mistaken, before they play Florida. And then, now they do travel to Gainesville and play Florida, I think, off of a bye week as well. So both teams have a bye week, but it is before Red River Shootout.
Yeah. They basically play San Jose State, UTEP, and Sam Houston State are the 2. There are 3 games before Florida after that game to the Horseshoe. So
yeah, and I'm right. They do have a bye week before Florida too, right?
Yeah, and then it's basically Red River is that following week. So it's kind of like that's a funky sandwich there. They basically are going to get that banger out the gate.
Yeah.
Win, lose, or draw. Then you get kind of like 3 layups. So then you got to come get hopefully punched in the mouth in Gainesville. And then,
but like the other angle you said too, why it could be the biggest game, even if Florida loses at LSU, nobody's going to shame Florida for losing at LSU. You got to beat Miami to I think make the Texas game feel as big as it can be. If you're undefeated, then it's going to be even more so, especially if they beat Ohio State. If you got an undefeated Florida and an undefeated Texas, and DJ Lagway's lighting it up, and Arch Manning's lighting it up, well, College Game Day is going to be there. It's for sure going to be an 8 o'clock kickoff. It is going to be the biggest game in Gainesville in quite some time now. Both teams have got to live up to that billing, but I think there is a chance that is. I mean, you got Georgia, Bama, I think the week before that, because it is during Florida's bye week. So you could have Georgia, Bama one week,
Yeah, Georgia Bama's the week before.
Yeah. So you can have Georgia Bama. You can have a top 5 matchup if games play out a certain way the week before. And then another, I think if Florida beats LSU in Miami, Florida's will be hovering around top 5.
Oh yeah.
So you can have 2 weeks back to back because the Georgia Bama loser will fall the week before that. You could have 2 top 5 SEC matchups in back to back weeks, and Florida Texas being that with one of the best quarterback matchups everybody's going to be circling.
Yeah. And what are you talking about, Dave? The SEC's overrated, man. What are you talking about? Come on, it's they don't deserve all this hype. They don't deserve all this talk. Like, come on. No, it's these teams are the best teams in the country, and like you said, there's nothing more than. I know preseason polls is a bunch of hype, and a lot of people are like, "Oh, why are they like?" They have to rank them somewhere just to get you to, everybody's going to watch the games, but it gives the hype element of, I mean, week 1 we've got like 4 top 10 games, so it's like they got to hype it up, and sure, there's going to be teams that are way overrated, then there's going to be teams that are kind of underrated, under the radar, that kind of come out of nowhere, but like you got to rank these teams off of potential from last year, potential from what's coming up this season, and expectation levels of this quarterback versus that quarterback. So they got to rank them somewhere. I know let's start out with no numbers. Well, then when you're playing this, Ohio State Texas game and there's no numbers beside it, you're just like, yeah, it's a big matchup, but let me see 1 versus 2 or 3 versus 4. You want to see that. So you got to rank them somewhere. But yeah, like the schedule is the schedule. If the Gators, like we always said, if you can come out 3-1 going into that Texas game, we'll take it. Hoping that you're obviously you take the LSU win over the Miami win, even though I can't even believe I'm saying that too because I hate Miami as well. But you'd rather take the SEC win, but somehow, some way, if you were undefeated,
I think I'm on the other side of that. I think you
really. You can have them. I totally. You know what? I do agree because you can't have mulligans now in the SEC. You can have the SEC.
Exactly.
Mulligans.
You can have mulligans. You don't have to be in Atlanta to get to the playoff.
You're totally right. That's totally true.
I think a loss to Miami can hurt you more than a loss to LSU.
I'm with you on that. I'll flip and I'm with you because you don't like we seen it last year, Tennessee. You don't have to go to Atlanta. Like sometimes it might be better not to go have to play another game. You don't have to go play in that game. It kind of takes away the luster of the SEC championship a little bit, but I know, in talks of this whole expansion thing, that the whole play-in weekend would be, that would be where, you get into one of those matchups, and then, we'll talk that business when it happens. But yeah, you don't have to go to Atlanta. Sure, it's the ultimate,
if you are, you're in the playoff.
For sure.
Yeah, so I guess I can see that angle of it too. Because if you are in Atlanta, you're with this expanded playoff, you're a shoe-in for the playoff.
Yeah. No, I'd agree with that too. So like I say, but again, it's it's so
But I'm not going to the next point of it. Yeah. And then going to the next point of it though. Okay, the 9-3 conversation.
Yeah.
If you're 9-3 with a loss to Miami, that's where I think it can hurt you. I think if all three of your losses are SEC losses, okay, I think that's playing out how we think it might play out. Of course, Miami could be a top 10 team when it's all said and done.
That's where it's pending. Pending would be if the Canes go 10-2 or 11-1.
Yeah, but right now I think LSU's better than Miami. So I think the committee could say if that's if we're just talking those 2 games. Of course, the schedule could play out some other ways. But if Florida's 9-3, I think they're getting in anyway, even with a loss to Miami. But if there's a bunch of other 9-3 teams, okay, or they go, well, Florida lost to an ACC Miami team. I would hate for that to be the reason Florida doesn't get in.
It's funny.
But I think 9-3 because the top of college football, to me, it is the gap is not there this year as it has been.
Right.
I don't think there's going to be that many one-loss teams.
I think there's going to be some carnage. I think a lot of teams, like I was going to say, is would you rather be Miami or LSU? I'd rather be Miami because they're not going to play as good a schedule as what LSU is going to play. Right. So they're going to have more losses high potentially than what the Canes would have. And that I know that what Josh Pate said a couple of weeks ago got a lot of people up in arms. He basically made the comment of if Florida's 9-3 and LSU's 9-3. And even if the Gators lose in Baton Rouge, he would take the Gators 9-3 over LSU to get in the play. And everybody's like, "What are you head to head?" Like, all. And it was basically like, well, yes, you have to look at the 9 wins that each of them have, and yes, they do have that head to head element. But if you're saying that they beat a number 1 Texas, they beat a top 5 Georgia team,
Yeah.
and then they beat one of these, A&M or Ole Miss or Tennessee, wherever they're ranked when they play them, and then you go back and look at LSU's 9, you're like, LSU they might not have a good one. They might have lost their 3 losses might have been to Bama, Clemson, and South Carolina, which are all top 10 teams.
True.
So who do you hang their wins? The good wins that they call. So, and
at that point, Florida would be a good win. Texas A&M would be a good win.
There you go.
So there's so many common opponents with Florida LSU. You got the only ones that are not are Clemson, Bama,
South Carolina,
and South Carolina. Those are the top teams that are not the same. But
and
both
what
teams
if
play.
What if those
Ole Miss.
were their what if those were their 3 losses?
Yeah, right. Yeah, but we both play Texas A&M. We both play Ole Miss. Man.
No, trust. It's one of those hypotheticals. Like, again, I before we even got on, Bud and the guys at CBS, they were doing their pick predictions. He predicted Texas at 9-3 to get into the playoff, and they were all like, "Whoa! Who?" Like, when you look at Texas,
who would their wins be?
Exactly. That's what it was. We talked about Texas' schedule last year was pretty soft. As your first year in the SEC, and what if they don't beat their 3 losses? What if it's Ohio State?
Florida and Georgia.
Florida, yeah. Then who they're hanging their wins on?
A&M,
Oklahoma, and A&M. Like that doesn't get you in. But
that better not get them in over a 9-3 LSU, a 9-3 Florida, 9-3 Carolina.
The rest of those guys on the panel, Cannell and even your boy Fernelli, were like, I don't see that happening. But again,
I don't either.
They're gonna start hyping up Arkansas. They got a big win against Arkansas and Kentucky or something. He was saying the SEC ESPN hype machine was going to come into play, but again, 9-3, 9-3, 9-3 is going to be a tough spot. But I think, like you said, what we're going to be arguing is, when we were talking about the other day, is a 10-2 versus a 9-3. A 10-2 Big 12 or a 10-2 Big 10 team, versus that 3-loss SEC team, whether it be a LSU or a Florida. They're going to have the better wins. They just are. So then you're basically, going to be going off of. They have one more loss, but they've got better wins. So who's the better team? And that's where the whole hiccup comes every single, when they get to the end, where they start talking about playoff spots, and you start, banging the gavel for this is why this team should be in, and that's what makes it fun talking point, way down into the season. But 9-3, I think with our schedule, definitely we're going to be in the talking points to basically we should be in. Now, again, where are our 9 wins and what are the 3 losses, all that stuff. But like I say, it's all about, like you say, the next game, and those first 4 to 5 games are hell. Yeah. It's tough, So
sure.
you got to come out and come out hot 2-0, and then let's see where we're at with those 2 road games.
It is so different. Last year it was the brutal November.
Yeah.
Now this year it is the brutal September and early October.
Yeah. So. Yeah, because like I say, you look at the back half, where everybody was talking about last year, you obviously got the Georgia game, which is going to be a huge game, but then, the 2 road games, Kentucky, a lot of people aren't feeling Kentucky. Ole Miss is one of those, that's so late in the season, we're going to get a feel of where Ole Miss's season goes.
If
November
you're in
15th.
contention, those are games you better not be losing.
Right. And then, you get Tennessee and Florida State at home. All 4 of those games, you feel like you are the better team right now. And so, Georgia.
Not only us. I mean, the poll right there.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We're
Ole Miss is 21, Tennessee's 24, Kentucky, of course, not ranked. FSU, of course, not ranked. So even the polls think we're better than those last 4 teams that we play.
Yeah, you'll be favored in all those games right now, according to right now. So, it's like I say, it's fun to break it down and look, futuristic.
But looking at this, man, hey, week 0, number 17 versus number 22 next week.
Yeah.
We got in Ireland, we got a ranked matchup.
Dublin, baby, K-State, Iowa State for sure. Like I say, that's like it's it's hard to believe that's like next week, man.
Next week. My wife will have to just those 3.5 hours. She'll just it's here again already.
It's not the full
but
slate.
it's not the 12 hours.
It's not the full slate. Yeah.
I
was watching. There's funny those like memes and stuff where the wife. I saw one today. The wife said she had the whiteboard up and said, "All right, wives, it's football season. Here it is." And she had put down each day and what to expect. Said, let's do date nights on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. Those are your best case scenarios because Mondays are obviously standalone games. It's a primetime game. They want to watch that Monday Night Football game. I can give or take Monday Night Football sometimes, but you know,
it's
Saturday and Sunday.
It's Monday night 8:30 Gators Breakdown. That's what it is.
There you go. We're talking Gators wins, baby. We're talking about Gator wins.
But yeah, it is. You know, the podcast has certainly ramped up all the football time. So
yeah, for sure. No, that's a whole nother element that I didn't even think about.
Yep. So, but hey, just nothing like it. We're excited. But yeah, week 0 next week, and a couple more weeks for the Gators.
Yeah, man, it's here.
Good stuff, Sponge, man. Anything else?
No, I think we're good, man. Like I say, we can we'll rap about something else next week, and
sure will.
like I say, it gives us another week and a step closer to kickoff. So, like I say, I'm good talk about the O line and the D line because that's definitely your key focal points of any team that wants to be really good. You got to be good up front on both sides of the ball, and again, that's where everybody says games are won, baby. Games are won in the trenches.
Yeah, don't think that one's coach speak, especially in this conference.
Definitely not. You got to have that. You got to have it.
All right, everybody, for Sponge, Andrew Franklin, right there, right here on Gators Breakdown. I am David Waters at GatorDave_SEC. Guys and girls out there, thank you for joining us on this episode of Gators Breakdown.